If you're trying to build generational wealth and you're copying what rich people look like they do, trusts, entities, Rockefeller strategies, TikTok hacks, you're probably doing the exact thing that keeps people broke, okay? Because most of that advice is about tax management after the wealth exists, or it's just fake, okay? Not how wealth is actually created, protected, and compounded under tax law. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most generational wealth advice online is backwards. It focuses on what wealthy people do after they're rich, not the tax decisions that actually made getting rich mathematically possible in the first place. So today, I'm gonna give you dangerously honest advice and walk you through the biggest lie about generational wealth, why it destroys long-term after-tax outcomes, and what actually works if you want wealth that survives more than one generation. And I'm Jasmine DiLucci. I'm a tax attorney, CPA, and enrolled agent. What I'm sharing isn't theory, okay? It is what I see in real life, the tax decisions that compound wealth over generations, and the ones that look smart online, but end up in IRS problems and lost time and money. And by the end of this video, you'll understand 3 key things about what you'll need to know if you want real generational wealth. Okay, the myth, what people get completely wrong about how wealth is built, the gimmicks, the strategies that quietly destroy families financially, and the reality, what wealthy people actually do and when they do it. Let's start with the myth, because if you miss this part, everything else you hear about generational wealth will sound smart, and it will still make you poorer. Okay, the biggest lie about generational wealth is this, that wealthy families got rich because of trust, tax tricks, or fancy structures. They didn't. The Rockefellers didn't get rich because John D. signed up for a non-grantor, irrevocable, complex, discretionary spendthrift trust, otherwise known as extreme tax fraud. The Rockefellers didn't build wealth through a waterfall 508c1a faith-based foundation that only works if the IRS can't read, can't count, and just decides that vibes are tax law now. The Rockefellers did build trusts, foundations, and long-term estate plans, but only after they built massive economic value. And those structures weren't income tax plays. Most of the Rockefeller wealth was created before the modern income tax even existed. Their planning was about control, succession, and later estate taxes, not creating money or avoiding income tax. What people do instead is they look at a wealthy family, the Rockefellers, old money families, and modern billionaires, and they see the wrapper around the wealth, the trusts, the entities, the estate planning, and they assume that it is what helps them create wealth. Instead, doing this too early bleeds money, time, and energy, and it distracts you from building value and wealth and funds internet tax gurus selling fear and nonsense dressed up as strategy. Now, let's talk about the gimmicks, because this is where people don't just stall, they actively destroy their future. Okay, right now, there is an entire internet economy selling generational wealth strategies that are either completely unnecessary, financially harmful, or straight up tax fraud. Things like Rockefeller trusts, ministry trusts, or spendthrift structures or code sections being relabeled to sound wealthy. Okay, most of these strategies are marketed as, this is what the rich do. No, this is what uneducated people think the rich do. Actual wealthy families are extremely risk averse with existing wealth. They don't gamble on gimmicks, they don't sign up for things they don't understand, and they definitely don't pay to commit tax fraud. One bad strategy can wipe out decades of progress, okay? Tax schemes often take years for the IRS to unwind, and when they do, the outcome is almost always the same. The tax position is reversed, penalties are assessed, promoters are prosecuted, and client lists are obtained with your name on them. This isn't new. The gimmicks change, but the cycle doesn't. Okay, we rotate through new fake tax law every few years, and right now, the most common versions are first, a spendthrift trust scheme where they're marketed as a way to move income out of your personal tax return while still keeping control of your money, okay? The pitch usually sounds like this. You set up a non-grantor, irrevocable, complex, discretionary, spendthrift trust, lots of impressive words. You sell assets or income-producing property to the trust, and now the trust earns the income instead of you. Promoters claim that if the trustee allocates capital gains or dividends to corpus and doesn't distribute them, that income somehow avoids current taxation under Section 643. What they don't tell you is that this interpretation has never been supported by actual tax law. And in 2023, the IRS issued formal guidance stating what was already very obvious from the code itself. Okay, Section 643 does not exclude income from tax. It only determines how income is allocated between a trust and its beneficiaries. If income isn't distributed, the trust pays the tax. Full stop. The IRS didn't create a new rule here, okay? It clarified a misreading that promoters were exploiting. These structures fail because they confuse distributable net income with taxable income, and tax law has never worked that way. When audited, the strategy is very, very easily unwound, and the deductions are disallowed, and the income is taxed where it always should have been, plus penalties and interest on top. The second most common tax gimmick going around right now is a 508c1a tax scheme, where they are marketed as a way to route income through a church so it's no longer taxable. The pitch usually sounds like this. Churches are automatically tax exempt. Churches don't need IRS approval. And because the First Amendment, the IRS can't interfere. So promoters tell people to set up a faith-based foundation, ministry, or legacy church, route the business income to it, and then pay personal expenses from the organization. The implication is that once income flows through a church, it's no longer subject to income tax. What they don't tell you is a 508c1a doesn't create a loophole. It just recognizes that an actual church is tax exempt if they meet very real requirements. Tax law has always been clear on this. The IRS looks at facts and circumstances, independent governance, a legitimate public religious purpose, no private inurement, and no personal control of funds. If the same person controls the money before and after, and the income ultimately benefits them, it is still taxable. Calling something a church doesn't change that, and the IRS didn't invent this rule either. It's been settled law for decades. These schemes fail because they confuse religious protection with tax exemption, and the First Amendment has never allowed people to launder personal income. When audited, the exemption is denied, income is recharacterized back to the individual, and the exposure often goes beyond civil penalties into promoter investigations because this isn't aggressive tax planning, it is abusive by design. Taking tax positions like this doesn't just fail, it quietly erodes wealth and derails any chance at generational success. And once you understand that, the real question becomes, what actually works? So once you strip away the gimmicks, the law is actually very clear. So let's stop talking about what doesn't work and let's start talking about what does. So let's fix this by talking about the reality, okay? Real generational wealth follows a boring but effective order. First, build real value. That usually means growing a business or income stream where you have an advantage. Second, reinvest in high ROI assets that you actually understand, okay? For most people, that's their business until it's no longer needing every dollar. Third, shift excess capital into tax-advantaged assets, and this is where real estate shines. You can take depreciation, benefit from long-term appreciation, and avoid triggering taxable events by either holding the assets or using a 1031 exchange. And the fourth is to plan at the right time, right? Trusts, estate planning, entity optimization, and advanced strategies are tools for protecting and transferring wealth, not for creating it. They work best once income is consistent, assets are material, and long-term goals are defined. And for most people, that means you don't meaningfully engage in estate tax planning with trusts until you're at least in the realm of potential estate tax exposure, which under current law is roughly $15 million per person. Before that point, these structures often add cost and complexity without providing a real tax benefit. In fact, implementing estate tax planning too early can backfire. I regularly see people lock assets into structures designed to reduce estate tax, like family limited partnerships or irrevocable trusts, only to later realize they've created income tax inefficiencies, lost flexibility, or foregone benefits like future step-up in basis. That is what we call reverse estate tax planning, okay, where the structure makes the tax outcome worse, not better. The goal of good planning isn't to do everything as early as possible. It is to do the right things at the right time so each layer of complexity actually improves your outcomes instead of just restricting them. And this is where the real generational wealth is protected, okay? Assets grow, taxable events are minimized, and when structured correctly, families benefit from things like step-up in basis instead of triggering unnecessary tax. The families that succeed long-term aren't chasing hacks, they are disciplined about adding complexity in entities only when there's real benefit, legal benefits. They focus on value first, planning second, and gimmicks never. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this. You don't build generational wealth by copying what rich people have. You build it by doing what they did and in the right order. Create value, avoid shortcuts, master the fundamentals before you add complexity. And if you want real tax law, not internet tax myths, subscribe so we can keep breaking down what actually works and what doesn't.